What's up?
Welcome back.
I'm ChaseMG, and this is Emery. Yeah, do it. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're all right. Long time no see to you.
No, yeah.
Welcome back to RSJ Dynasty Dive here. No, it's not your usual live stream gang, but I'm here, Emery, with my boy Dane, ChaseMG. We just had a lovely little night last night. Chopped it up with the fellas. We did a little preseason talk and then got into our rookie draft. I'd say that if you followed along with our last week's episode, there was a little bit different, a little bit less, little difference in our projections, but I'd say we were fairly spot on with that first round. How did you feel you came away in that draft?
Yeah, I kind of first off want to kind of talk about, like, it's so weird to dive into just all these numbers and analytics and scouting reports just for months and months, and it seems like forever, and you're trying to prep for your rookie draft or even a startup draft, and then, like, in the rookie draft's case, like 1 hour, done.
Yeah,
it's almost kind of a weird feeling once it's over.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I sat there and did probably 15 to 20 mock drafts just to see what would fall to me in that second round, and then I had 4 minutes to make my pick, and so. But yeah, we've wrapped that up, and we're gonna dive into it here in just a second. Any other starting notes you have?
Not really starting notes. So yeah, like, we're not gonna get. There's 48 players in the draft. We're not gonna talk about everybody, of course, but we're gonna talk about some of the more notable observations that happened. If anybody has any kind of, I don't want to say wild, but if you got any wild rookie draft stories that you want to share with us, leave it in the comments or tweet at us at RSJ Dynasty Dive. And then I guess without further ado, we got the draft board up here so that we can go ahead and dive into how it worked. If you're, not familiar with what a sleeper draft board looks like, maybe it'll be maybe a little confusing. Obviously, you see who had the original picks up there at the top. So, CJ, the Silent Assassin, was our 101 this year. So obviously you go down 201, 31, 41. And so we got a good amount. This year we had a good amount of traded picks, and we did last year as well. And so you can see that with that 102, get in there and punt. That is me after trading for the 102. So that's what that kind of looks like there. Yeah, a lot of traded picks, and a little different this time around. For kind of whatever reason, we didn't end up having any draft day picks, draft day trades going on last year, but we had a few this time around. Would have been nice to get one more for myself there in the later rounds, but that's okay. I did end up getting the 3-1 there, which I didn't have when the draft started. So it was nice to do a little bit of wheeling and dealing during the draft time. Definitely a different element compared to when you have a lot of time to think about what you're trying to do, when nobody's on the clock. So
last night was a lot more like a laid back sort of atmosphere too. We were able to, last year we were all trying to be a little professional about it. I think it was the first rookie draft that we were going to do. Keep everything sort of professional and in-house, and like with the live stream that we did last year. Mm-hmm. This year we just sat around, talked it up, talked life, everything, poker, Catan, Celtics, yeah, Kentucky basketball for some reason. Thank you. Shout out Duck. But I think that sort of fostered a better opportunity to move a few picks mid-draft too. So I liked it.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It's like a shame it doesn't last an hour. We should do like 20 rounds so we can get like, I don't know, start putting some offensive linemen on our teams or something so we can make some more rounds.
Exactly.
But so diving in, the obvious pick there, I maybe obvious is too strong of a word, but the pick at 101, Bijan Robinson. Then that was myself at the 102, trading for that a couple weeks before the draft so I could get myself some Anthony Richardson action. I don't think anybody's too mad about that. And then 103, the guy I think I might regret not taking, a few years down the road, just because he seems to be coming on real strong so far. CJ Stroud, going to D-Lo. That's Anthony De Lorenzo, who writes a lot of our culture pieces at RSJ. Then we got another old schooler, Sean Keeg. So I still had taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 104. He ended up going with Bryce Young, who I was pretty confident in taking AR-15 over Bryce Young myself. Then we got Papa Tunes, who came in with a interesting situation with his QB2 being Ryan Tannehill. So we wondered if he would be the guy who ended up taking Will Levis, which we'll get to later. Another very interesting way the Levis pick went down. But he ended up going with Jahmyr Gibbs. His starting running backs going into this were Stevenson and Ramondre Stevenson and Dameon Pierce. So adds to that right away with Gibbs. And then the fun really starts. At the 106, I Duck 14. That's the Duck. Matt Duckworth came into the draft when the clock started. That pick was his. Ended up moving it to, as you see there, Jimbo Slice, who at that time had the 107. So the trade that went down was, and as I get more and more used to doing the stuff on here, might as well bring it up. Duck traded out of the 106, and he traded for the 107 and Justyn Ross. Now, I believe, based on, kind of how everybody was talking yesterday, that I'm in the minority, maybe a small minority, in absolutely backing up Duck on what he did here. What did you think, Emery? I heard a lot of, some good amount of trash talking to Duck for doing this, and I see no problem with it. I love the chance that I love the gamble here.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It is a gamble. I think that Wolf broke it down as you were trading JSN for Quentin, Johnston, and Justyn Ross. And so it really depends on where you have both those guys long term. I mean, we talked about it last week, both of these guys. The previous Ohio State wide receivers, Olave and Garrett Wilson, said that JSN was better than both of them. The two guys that were the top two wide receivers of last year, the offensive rookie of the year, Garrett Wilson. So you are making a pretty big gamble, but I also, if you're in the mood to gamble, then this is a bid I would make. I like picking up Justyn Ross. I don't know if he may not even make the team, but he's his freshman year at Clemson was beyond amazing to watch. Hurt himself sophomore year, then got drafted. Hurt himself last year, missed the whole season. But I don't know long term what the drop off from JSN to Quentin Johnston will be, but the reasoning for it on Duck's end at least was that Quentin Johnston's going to be tied to Justin Herbert for the rest of his career. Hopefully, that's the hope of the franchise there. And I think that if you've got a guy slinging the ball like that to another big body receiver that they love in Los Angeles, I almost said San Diego again. But
I like it.
It's going to come up at some point. I'm going to say San Diego, and it's the Chargers. But yeah, to have a guy tied to Herbert for the foreseeable and long-term future is not a bad gamble to make. So I really don't mind it. I think I was on the side with you, but during the draft, but I think we were in the minority for sure.
Yeah, and conversely, I don't see this really turning into an issue long term for JSN, but I do have a question mark about how well he's going to be utilized. Mm-hmm. You would think that as Tyler Lockett kind of fades, because age catches up with everybody, that the room's gonna be Metcalf and JSN.
Right.
But I mean, we saw with this last draft, people had problems with the Seahawks taking Charbonnet in the second, which I think maybe mostly was a fantasy thing. I think the Seahawks did have other needs, but we know Pete Carroll. We know he wants a strong running game. So, that made sense. And we even had a quote from Pete Carroll saying, he still likes the tight ends there. So, who knows how much the tight ends are going to eat into JSN's targets for, I guess not just this year, but 2, 3, 4 years down the road.
Right.
And with the Russell Wilson era, we saw good receivers not be really fantasy relevant for a good portion of Russell Wilson's tenure there. I mean, Doug Baldwin was there for a while before he actually, I forget what season that was. It was like the end of, I think, like 2016 or something. He just lit it up, and now Doug Baldwin's he's a viable fantasy receiver. It's not like he wasn't just that bad before. So
no, it was like a run of 6 touchdowns in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, so I do kind of have, as long as, I guess Pete Carroll's there, even though, the OC is different. It came over from the Rams. Can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but it is enough to leave a question mark in my mind about if JSN's potential is going to be fully utilized there, if it might be drowned a little bit in scheme, but enough to where, making a trade like this and going with Quentin, Johnston and Justyn Ross instead could end up, I could see it being a W. Right off the bat here, you see it's a trade down, 1 pick, but me and you both agreed, this is why you keep tiers in your rankings, just to keep your complete context when you're drafting. Because after this top 6, we knew it was going to be these 6 in one form or another. Then there was a clear teardrop. There really was no question about it. So another thing to keep in mind here, it's not just a 1 pick drop, it was a 1 tier drop.
Yeah.
So anybody thinks Duck's crazy for that trade, go ahead and tweet at him. I can't think of his Twitter handle off the bat, but you gotta RSJ well enough. The Duck. You can search up some Matt Duckworth and give him some shit.
Absolutely.
We'll keep going here.
We knew we had this run of wide receivers coming too, so it was just basically how that second tier of wide receivers would fold out. And obviously Quentin Johnston was picked up by Duck. Zeno's added Addison, and Flowers went third to Wolf. Probably the most Wolf-like player in this league. I think we both talked about it last week, that this guy looks like a guy that Wolf would love. And so he got that guy. He got his guy at 1-9. And then back to Dalton Kincaid. We didn't have any tight ends in our first round mock last week. What did you think of this pick here?
I mean, I feel like any mock draft I saw online had Kincaid in the late first. Mm-hmm. Maybe not, but obviously there's logic there. I think there was talk of that Bill's coaching staff, the OC there, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but mentioned how Kincaid could be split out wide. They're looking for more weapons behind Stephon Diggs in Buffalo, which, they got Gabe Davis, but I still think they're trying to get some more depth of weapons there on offense. So the guys, you can't question the guy's ceiling. But it's just, personally, I know for me, tight ends are kind of tough to take. I usually try to avoid having to draft them because of how long they take to develop. Mm-hmm. But Kincaid's development time could very well be short.
Yeah.
So I can't really – is that who I take at the 110? I'm not really sure because I didn't have to think about it all that much, but I can't really put it down.
No, and I think that it's a nice gamble to make. I mean, I think Wolf likes his running back room enough. we talked during the stream. He was like all over A-Chain, and that's where I think both of us thought that would be around where he would go. We didn't think Kendre Miller would sneak into the first, but he did. We thought that one of those running backs might go there, but I then you'd have to assume that Wolf likes his running back room enough there to take a gamble on another tight end.
Yeah, so I still have these up, even though obviously, these are a little outdated now that the end of the benches have been dropped after the draft. So, yeah, Pollard and Barkley. I don't know how much credence there's going to end up being about Barkley sitting out this year. I figure Le'Veon Bell is in the mind of everyone too much that I would really be surprised if another running back took a year off because of this the franchise tag business.
Right.
So it's hard for me to see. Can't rule that out. That would be it would be crazy to me to see Barkley sit out the year, but hey, yeah, I mean
it would be for me too. And I think I think New York is in a position where they win with him on the field and they lose with him off. So it would be in their best interest to create some sort of agreement there. But again, to go back to the point there, I think that running back room is solid enough to get him through this year, where he could then have a nice little blanket for Waller if he gets hurt. Barkley, Pollard, McKinnon, Jamal Williams, Pierre Strong after the James Robinson news yesterday. Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards is always going to be in the mix in Baltimore. Donta Foreman had a great back half of the season last year. I think that running back room is strong enough where he could get by without taking another rookie there.
Yeah, especially, we both had him taking A-Chain at the 110. We don't know how immediate his production is going to be or what kind of role, even long-term, he's going to end up having just because, size concerns, so workload concerns, and volume is king. So, yeah, we did see Papa Tunes had the 111. Came in to the draft having two viable running backs, Ramondre Stevenson, Dameon Pierce. Took care of that with the 1-5 with Jahmyr Gibbs. Also decided to go running back here again with Kendre Miller. It's been a little hard for me to get a beat on what I think about Kendre Miller. So, he didn't end up making it in either of our first round mocks. But again, it's somebody that, I can't. I'm not going to go, oh, shitty pick. No, I can't. No. We see Devon A-Chain went to CJ at the 112, and CJ kind of it was kind of like a snake draft for CJ. He had the 101, he had the 112, and then he had the 201. Taking the second tight end off the board, and Michael Mayer. I think my tight end too was Sam Laporta, who went next, but I can see some interchangeability with those guys.
Absolutely, especially with the way that Garoppolo used Kittle in San Fran. That may be a whole part of Shanahan's offense, but and I am not a huge. Why am I blanking on McDaniel, right? And he was a Patriots guy forever, and his playbook was always tiered as like this great, phenomenal offensive mind, and he sucks as a head coach. So we'll see how that happens there, but I don't mind either of those two guys going there. It's a little early with some of the with the next 4 guys on the board, I would imagine. But I don't mind the tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, both of those guys, CJ and Zenos, both needed a tight end for what it's worth on their particular rosters. So, who knows how much that played into a factor, but, outside of just trying to go best player available. If everybody wanted to go best player available, it might be a little bit weird for people to see Zach Charbonnet going at the 203 to De Lorenzo. Are you surprised he dropped that far?
I'm surprised he dropped. I would imagine that as Tunes just popped into the chat here, I would imagine that he would have been the third running back over Miller or A-Chain, but Toon says Kendre Miller would likely be a starter for 6 weeks if he stays healthy, with Kamara being suspended this season. I don't disagree with that. And I think that the sort of outside noise about this fantasy backfield had a massive impact on where Charbonnet is going to land. Probably this, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a more common landing spot as we get closer and closer to the mini camps rolling around. I mean, it's tough to have two guys. You don't want to waste a first round pick on even a 1B running back, moving forward. I think that this is probably where he'll start to shake out as some of the less hardcore, a little bit more casual dynasty users get into their rookie drafts and that sort of thing. I don't mind him falling.
Yeah, I've always kind of seen Charbonnet as like if Ken Walker's healthy, then he's a flex. If Ken Walker's injured, he's an RB1.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. They might kind of throw other backs in there if as a committee if Ken Walker's hurt, but as far as Charbonnet's talent, his draft capital, seems like it's somebody they could lean on if Ken Walker was out to get enough volume there to be get in there with those, at least flirt with RB1 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Rashee Rice going to D'Lo. D'Lo had consecutive picks there. He goes Rashee Rice. I have Kadarius Toney, but that doesn't mean I really know what to make of the receiver room out of the Chiefs. We saw Tyreek leave last season, and Mahomes was clearly just fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of like, it's almost maybe a Tom Brady kind of situation where you get these kind of lesser pedigree guys on that team, and they can produce, and they themselves aren't going to be real legit, fantasy weapons, but Mahomes is always going to be, and the Chiefs are going to be successful. And
similar to like Embrell Tompkins, things like that. Yeah. And I thought that Rashee Rice was at the top of my next tier of wide receivers. As we talked about that second tier in the first round, I think Rashee Rice, Mingo, and Downs were that next tier there. And so that it just makes sense that this is where where Rice or Mingo or Downs or Marvin Mims would go in this. It's all basically a toss-up at this point. Anybody in this middle of the second round, your wide receivers is all, in my opinion, at least personal preference, who you think is in a great spot, what buzz you've heard from camp. And so I don't mind this pick at all. I think this is a definite break in the talent and tiers here.
Now for the next break point, as far as how I saw it, I guess. Now, so Emery, Padrino, that is yourself taking Will Levis. And if I remember right from I think maybe our last episode, we didn't have Levis going in our first round mock draft. Like, it wasn't, I don't even know if it was really, in my mind, it wasn't even really a question that I just, I don't really see it with Levis right now. But so I have, Emery / Ian, our own Ian Snowdeal, as a co-manager of the same team of the joint as the team name. And so is that like your team basically, though? Like, how much influence does Ian have on that?
It is my team, yeah, but we always talk out every roster move and that sort of thing.
Okay.
It's more of just consulting. And so
we I thought that we both had kind of a agreement that Levis could just really suck up the room. But then the 205 rolls around.
Yeah, exactly.
You and Ian were ecstatic. You're saying 205 came around. Emery, you were on here on the Google Meet call. Like, you guys fucked up. Like, those guys that you skipped on the future in Tennessee here. And Ian loved it too. You guys were elated to get you some Will Levis. So what exactly excited you about Levis?
The fact that we didn't have to spend any real capital on a quarterback. I know that quarterback was a big question mark for my team outside of Jalen Hurts, and to have a viable guy for next season, especially with my pick situation or lack thereof going into next year, to not have to move off of any capital that I had and not break up a potential contender this season to then get a quarterback for the future. With that's all dependent on how Derek Carr plays, but to not have to break up an actual contender to get a quarterback of the future, to get a second quarterback, to be able to have this guy fall into our hands. I mean, our conversation before the draft was, hey, who are your top 4 guys? And neither of us, until that tight end run happened before, neither of us were like, we're going to get Levis. None of us, it wasn't going to fall. So we were like, yeah, I like Rashee Rice. I think Mims was the second one, Downs, and then Mingo. That was our sort of thought process. And then when Levis started falling, we were like, yeah, we can get this guy. We could get him at 205, and we can have a quarterback for next year, a guy that's going to, fingers crossed, be a starter in the league in a couple of years and keep this team rolling as a contender for the next couple of years instead of having to push all the chips in this year.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. It's I think I said it in the past. Levis is someone who I don't want to hitch my wagon to if I don't have to. But a little bit of a quarterback need with the team, so it's I just when I hear about him dropping in the NFL draft because of his attitude, that's a red flag to me. Speaks to how headstrong he might be on, arguably the most difficult position in all of sports. So,
did you see the comment Tunes left? He says he almost traded Bateman for the 204 to pick up Levis.
Yeah, so Thunberg commenting in, his QB2 is Ryan Tannehill, so we were kind of on the lookout for him to see if he would take Levis or not. So we see we had some interest there. I mean, Bateman for the 2-4. We'll see. I don't know what to make of. I really don't know what to make of Ravens wide receivers now either. Long term. So it's another interesting thing. Just so I could see, like, wouldn't put down that trade just because Bateman was a first round pick, but like, yeah, man, I could see a floor and a ceiling for him. The Ravens offense is in transition to allegedly more pass happy, and we'll see how it goes. That's another one that's like hard to get a beat on for me. So another fantasy pillar, is like, get your guy, so couldn't put down that trade if it happened.
Right. So then we go into the next, like we talked about, the next sort of tier of wide receivers here. Mingo goes to Zeno. Tunes picks up Downs in Indy, who's gotten a lot of good buzz this week. Jalen Hyatt to CJ. Don't know what's going on in the Giants wide receiver room. Doesn't really have an alpha. Doesn't really have a second guy. They had a guy walk in off the street last year, Isaiah Hodgins, and become their best receiver moving forward. It also, I would imagine that Hyatt was going before the Waller move. Hyatt was probably back end of the first, early second. And now with another mouth to feed, and again, the sort of unknown with Saquon being around, that would put Hyatt down into this tier here. Mims next. Do you have anything to say about these other two running backs, Roschon and Brown in Cincinnati?
Not so much about Brown. Roschon Johnson was an interesting one because I would read things about him that they were kind of like he was the guy behind Bijan, but once he gets his opportunity, he's going to be good. And that was kind of going against like a lot of scouting reports about the guy too. So, my first thought is kind of like not interested. Seems like he's going to be kind of a plotter. So, it wasn't just about being behind Bijan, being behind an already great running back and just waiting for your opportunity. I don't know if this guy has any kind of starting running back potential to me. So that was kind of my beat. Brown, I didn't really get much of a beat on him myself.
I think it's mainly just lack of touches with P. Ryan gone. Nothing crazy there, but is it Chase or Chris Brown?
Chase Brown.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. It's not Chris Brown. We don't need more Cincinnati Bengals players punching people. Next, Hendon Hooker. Zenos gets another project at quarterback.
Yeah.
The oldest oldest outside of Stetson Bennett, correct? Coming off an ACL tear. Looks to be a project in Detroit. Maybe Zenos is banking on the fall of Jared Goff, as we touched on a little bit last week.
Which I am not doing.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't bet on that either. I think Goff's gonna keep playing like he's always been playing, a pretty solid QB2.
Yeah, I think the most realistic scenario I can see for Jared Goff is that if the Lions are really just like they're building the team around him still.
Yeah.
Once they have that team around him, if they need another quarterback to go to that next step and like go farther in the playoffs or reach the Super Bowl or whatever, then it'll be Goff's time to go. I don't think Hooker's going to be the one to dethrone him.
No.
So,
but we'll see. You never know. Interestingly enough, there is a. Oh no! Hold on. Let's get to yours.
Yeah, so get in there and punt. That is yours truly. Didn't start off the draft with that pick. But I was kind of eyeing up a few different spots to try to trade back into. Did end up getting into that. The trade was I traded Jimbo Slice, one of my 2025 second rounders, and got the 301 and got a third rounder for next season. And that was so that I could take Israel Abanikanda. I myself have Breece Hall, so there's like part of your logic there. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have Breece Hall, I'm probably not doing that. But Abanikanda, I can see, as I said during the draft, I could see him taking over the RB2 spot. I don't think it's any kind of lock.
No, and people are very low on Michael Carter at the moment.
At the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. He hasn't shown much apparently in these OTAs. So,
and I don't know why he would have had had a down late year last year and having a down camp. It's not like he had, he wasn't James Robinson tearing his Achilles and trying to come back from that. So it is a little weird to hear that after the success that Michael Carter had his rookie season, that he's having trouble, keeping it together. But
no, I think this is a pretty safe pick. This was a sleeper pick in the Reddit community, at least in that second round, before the draft, at least before the landing spot. A lot of people liked Izzy, the way he ran the. I don't know about full numbers, but I think he was pretty quick at the combine. But yeah, it's a safe pick. It's an upside pick and a safe pick because you do have now the handcuff in your bench stash there.
And yes, moving on, we got Jaden Reed going in the third round. I guess he dipped a little bit. I saw plenty of things having him going in more like the late second. But again, with these receivers, A lot of it's coming down to personal preference, especially now that we're getting past the early third round. We're getting more into dart throws and starting to just now like taking more kind of projects who are like you're chasing ceilings and good situations in the future. Eric Gray, you got going to D-Lo, which could be an interesting pickup if Barkley sits out this season. But I don't know if he's necessarily going to be any kind of starter for the Giants.
They brought back Matt Breida as well, so who had some touches last year. Didn't look great, but
no, he's 28 now, so the speed might be wearing off.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's Eric Gray. I believe he was a 5th round pick, so it's not like they have anybody real established. They got Gary Brightwell too. Kind of a bunch of guys now. It seems like behind Barkley.
Yeah.
I like Michael Wilson.
I like this one next.
I do. It was interesting to see, this was plenty before, the NFL draft happened a good, a month plus before DeAndre Hopkins ended up getting released. And they draft Michael Wilson, who has a pretty similar profile to DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't know if that was really intentional by the Cardinals or what. So
yeah, I don't know. I would just positional need.
Yeah. Wilson seems like a guy who could have that dog in him.
Yeah.
Just based on what you look at with him and what you read about with him and stuff and see the tape. Pretty good with contested catches, that kind of thing. So he's kind of like I don't think he's gotten a lot of hype though. So he's just kind of been there, and I can't remember how much hype Hopkins had coming out of the draft. But I just thought it was interesting. And whenever I would read about Michael Wilson, it seems like I was kind of in a way reading about DeAndre Hopkins too. So that was interesting. We have Tank Dell going to Tunes at 305, and I know Wolf likes him based on his rookie rankings, likes him a lot. But I find it hard to get behind this guy. I know that C.J. Stroud lobbied for him for the Texans to draft him, but Mahomes lobbied for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Kyle Shanahan pounded the table for Joe Williams, right? Yeah. How did those work out? So I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. You kind of you still got to do it on the field.
Yeah, you got to go to practice.
So I just it's I hate for size to be too big of a concern, but it's a concern for me. It's a big concern with Dell. And he could prove me wrong, but you gotta kind of not just overcome size, but set yourself apart enough to be a real fantasy viable wide receiver. You can't be okay. Yeah. Okay is like messing around with wide receivers 3s and 4s. You gotta stand out somehow. And I know it's a land of opportunity with the Houston wide receivers, but right now I'm just not seeing it with Dell.
Sure. Kayshawn, is it Booty? I should know.
I think I thought it was Boutte. I could be wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
To Duck there, he loved the pick. Musgrove, that's going to D-Lo. Sorry, I'm reading this. And then we get to certainly the biggest faller of the draft last night. It was a topic of conversation amongst all the fellas. Tank Bigsby to the 308.
Yeah. Another guy that's been kind of hard for me to get a beat on as far as sharing a room with ETN. I know there's been all kinds of opinions out there about how Bigsby's going to fit in. So it was enough uncertainty for me that I am surprised he fell that far. I suppose, but he wasn't really somebody I was eyeing up. Did you have a real beat on him?
No, a lot of the buzz on Twitter, at least, was saying that ETN just isn't very efficient, and it was just mainly potential, like a potential to share the backfield. Um, with the success the Jags had last year, the building blocks that they put in place, adding Calvin Ridley, the progression and growth of Trevor Lawrence, a healthier ETN, and then the emergence of Christian Kirk last year. I think people are just sort of betting on that offense being a top 10 offense. To get
Mm-hmm.
to get a piece of that is always nice. Even if this guy is the number 2 back in the backfield, there's more than enough opportunities there. We saw that last year with JaMychal Hasty. We saw that last year with James Robinson before he was traded. The first 2 weeks of the season, he had 80 plus and a touchdown each week, and then got traded. So there is opportunities in that backfield. And I think that's just what people are banking on, and that's what made us so surprised that he fell to the sort of back half of the third round.
Moving along, as Tyjae Spears, or as Wolf first called him, Tajay Sharp. Honest mistake.
Sure.
And then said it himself, Mr. No Knees. So I guess I don't know if I would necessarily call this a ceiling chasing pick or not. So again, another guy who I wasn't really looking at. I think mainly because of the knees. I don't really know a whole lot. There's a whole lot to grasp onto as far as like what can set him apart and get him a lot of work. I don't know that he's a lead back in his own right.
Maybe.
Even if he was healthy, I think it's probably still a question mark. So do that with the injury concerns, and I was just kind of like, nah, can I have him? Sure. But after that, we have another running back taken by Sean Keegs, and so this one maybe the most interesting running back, just as far as how hyped he was during the offseason, and then just to see him fall in the NFL draft like he did. Now in our particular draft, you see him going to 310. So that's Zach Evans. I don't really know, we'll ask the question, is Zach Evans a steal right there? But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It was weird to see the hype train just slow down so much for Zach Evans. So what do you think? Is this a steal?
I don't know if it's a steal per se, but I mean that's a great value pick. I mean, I know you and I both aren't the highest on Cam Akers, and so getting another running back there. I know Kyron Williams is still in that backfield too. Who was considered another great value potential steal in third rounds last year.
Yeah.
And I think he had like 6 carries. He was in the doghouse. He pulled his hamstring week 1, something like that. And didn't get much run. So I think I don't know if it's a steal. I definitely think it's a value to get him this late in the third, to get a guy that has the opportunity to get a bunch of touches in the running back room there. But we know McVay uses peripheral pieces at the running back and really likes to sling the ball. So I think the best we'll get to it a little bit, but I think an actual steal would be Puka, the Rams receiver down there, 405. But we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get to Cedric Tillman first here at the 311, going to Kendall Brown. That was when the Browns made that pick. It seemed really. I mean, it made a lot of sense from a money perspective because they're going to have to find a way to make room for Deshaun Watson's cap hit somehow. So that probably means letting Amari Cooper go. And so this was their first actual pick in the NFL draft. in the third round because you lost your first because of Deshaun Watson. You traded for Elijah Moore with your second, and then their first one went another receiver. And so to me, Tillman didn't really stand out like talent-wise. He didn't really like stand out as somebody who could, on his own, as somebody who could get a lot of clout.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see him succeeding in that kind of offense. He has potential. It kind of screams an Amari Cooper replacement for me. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens, next season.
Sure.
So, it could be someone who could have some sneaky production there.
Absolutely. Along with this next guy here too, DeWayne McBride.
Yeah. So I wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that this is our next talking point. If we're talking to steal here, hold on, let me just put the timestamp in. Yeah, if we're talking steals, this guy is probably up there, and my top two, like I said, with Puka. We all know that Dalvin was cut. The whole discourse now is that is Alexander Mattison an RB1? Is he going to be able to tote the load there in Minnesota? Are they going to be able to, or are they going to bring in maybe another veteran, maybe Zeke, maybe Fournette? They sort of they plod along like Dalvin Cook did. Dalvin's a little faster than both of those guys, but they sort of have the same running style. But then the value at 312 for DeWayne McBride, a potential 1B in Minnesota. Who's the incumbent, like the guy they drafted last year?
Ty Chandler.
That's right. I once said Tyson Chandler, but I guess it's close enough. He, again, another unproven guy. So to get the opportunity, it's all about opportunities here. I mean, you said it earlier. The first half of this draft is dart throws. I mean, the first half of this round is dart throws, and then we're getting into some real, some longer and longer dart throws. You're backing up in the bar. You keep taking steps backwards, and you keep getting to throw it harder. Lean on that high school baseball arm you had, and then make those dart throws there. But I like this pick. This would quantify more as a steal than the Zach Evans for me.
I think it would be for me too. The thing about the Minnesota situation is, with Alexander Mattison, very realistically to me, could see him not being a long-term solution there. He kind of doesn't excel at any one thing besides like jumping over people. So like as early as next season, could be a different running back room. And what's interesting with the Minnesota situation is I kind of like, I like Chandler, I like McBride, and I could see a scenario where they don't feel the need to draft an early round running back and let McBride and Ty Chandler kind of be the 1-2 there.
Yep.
They also got Kenny Nwangwu, who is really fast, but I don't know about him getting any running work, despite every now and then, you see some online presence saying, are they going to find ways to get this guy the ball? He seems to be doing well enough doing returns. But, McBride was a guy that I was trying to sneak back into the late third round to try to get. Didn't end up working out. And it would have made sense for my team because I do have Ty Chandler and Kenny Nwangwu to boot. Yeah. But, it's the Vikings running back situation is unique because I could see it being, say you go McBride and Chandler in that backfield and you're coming up to 2025 and it's like, are the Vikings going to draft a running back? I don't know if they'll need to. I think these guys are talented enough that once they get the opportunity, they can do enough to show that the Vikings can take over some other priorities there. So,
absolutely.
I definitely.
In 2025, are they going to be even talking about running back with this the end of Kirk Cousins' tenure?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe focusing elsewhere and having a top tier running back and a Dookie Brown quarterback is not always the best strategy there.
No, it isn't.
Especially paired with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison outside.
Yeah.
Hawkinson long term, hopefully. So we'll see. And that wraps up our third round. And we are on to the real dart throws. I like Darnell Washington as a fourth round pick. I mean, he was a monster at the combine, put up wide receiver speed and linebacker numbers on the bench press. Do you have anything to say on Stetson Bennett? Do you think he's gonna have any run? Is Stafford wrapping his career up in his next 2 years?
It's possible. I mean, I've always kind of got. I think Matthew Stafford retirement rumors started a while ago, even just because of the back injuries and
the back, yeah.
So like you kind of gotta be thinking about it in the back of your head all the time. Right? But this offseason, Rams come out and say, no, Matthew Stafford is a foundational piece of what we're trying to do here. You know, another year we'll see, or another back injury, but definitely got to be in the back of your mind. It's hard to say what a team's going to get out of Bennett. Great landing spot, I guess, as far as if McVay sticks around. Despite last year's struggles, I still think he's a great coach, great play caller. He could probably get the best out of Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
How much of Bennett's success was surrounding talent there in college? It could be so hard to just figure out what's going to translate into the NFL with these guys, and so I think that's kind of why we're stuck with just trying to go off of draft capital. What is the NFL, the guys who are a lot smarter than we are, what do they clearly think about a guy, even though we just picked up DeWayne McBride and both agreed he might be the top sleeper in this draft at 312. He was a 7th round pick, but that stuff happens too. And it's, of course, Tom Brady, 6th round pick. So outliers do happen, right? But I'm not looking for Bennett to be any kind of wow, but
no, me either. I think that's more than enough talk on Stetson Bennett for today.
Xavier Hutchinson at the 403. I saw an interesting comparison of him to Keenan Allen just because of his profile. Allen wasn't he's not the fastest as far as raw speed, not the fastest or most athletic guy, but we've seen the kind of career he had. I thought it was interesting.
Of the last 6 or so years.
Yeah. So, I guess Hutchinson, if you want to take a shot.
Yeah, take a shot at
the fourth round.
Houston receiver room. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's still
nobody there.
Yeah, it's so fluid.
You like Robert Woods? You like Tom Mechie? Do you like Tank Dell? I don't know.
Well, we're talking dynasty here, though. Get that Robert Woods shit out of here.
I know. I'm about to drop him. Him and Allen Robinson can go off the pasture for me.
Yeah.
Logan Shoemaker is a nice pickup here too. We don't know what's going to happen in the Dallas tight end room. I know they have Peyton Hendershot, yeah, and Jake Ferguson, but they added this Shoemaker here too. So we'll see what happens there. Not a bad pick in the 4th round out of Xenos.
Yeah, see what happens. Another very fluid situation is probably maybe just as fluid as the Texans wide receiver room.
Yeah.
Another pick that I like the pick here. Obviously, Duck really likes the pick here, going Chris Rodriguez. So I guess the assumption here is that he can take over for Brian Robinson.
Yeah, who hasn't had the most optimism about him this offseason. A lot of the buzz is about Antonio Gibson with the enemy coming in. Rivera obviously really likes both those guys, likes Robinson and Gibson, but I think from a dynasty or a fantasy point of view, Gibson has the most value there. We saw what both of them did with split shares and things like that. But yeah, this is again another dart throw that you make with a new OC coming into a position with probably a sub-tier quarterback starting at the helm there, and an offense and a roster that can compete for a wild card spot. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's never anything wrong with having that depth around you.
Yeah. I think that's probably all we need
Sure,
to say
yeah.
about Rodriguez for now. But like, the big one here, another guy kind of had my eye on, but I don't know. We're the things that we're hearing about Puka Nacua at 406 they're Cinderella-like.
Yeah.
But it's not like he had a real electric profile coming out of college. Could definitely end up being successful. You got to have somebody behind Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
Emerge, right? In theory, for the Rams. So
it can't be Allen Robinson.
No. So it's the middle of the 4th round.
Why not?
Great place to take him. Yeah. So the path for Nacua to success is there. Definitely
Similar to the next guy too. I like A.T. Perry in New Orleans. Just with that whole room there, they had Raheed Shaheed break out last year a little bit. A lot of Saints fans love the pick, but that's Saints fans, and Saints fans are some of the craziest people that I know. Living here in West Florida, about 2.5, 3 hours away from New Orleans. We got a lot of them down here, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but they are just unbearable. Saints fans are too much. I can't stand
them. But would you? Who was that? Who's that Bears defensive lineman that just spoke today? They're not talking about Packers fans. Your Saints fans aren't shitty and obnoxious, are they?
They're just. It's like, oh yeah, we had Drew Brees for so long. He won 1 Super Bowl. I don't care. It doesn't like it. Just talk like they're the cream of the crop, the best fan base out there. Sure, they're passionate, but they're passionate about a mediocre team, and they've been mediocre forever. And I don't know. It's SEC country, man. It just means more down here. So.
Yeah. Should I hide my Peyton Hillis jersey if we're talking about passionate fans of a mediocre team for decades? No, I heard some parallels there to my time in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, AT. Yeah, I suppose he's another guy that can emerge. He didn't really jump off the page to me. So, we'll see what happens. I think Rashid Shaheed is a kind of a weird fit with Derek Carr because we know he doesn't really, as far as throwing the ball downfield, which I know that's not how they were always using Rashid. So there's some stuff to watch there with that offense to see how they can try to get most out of those guys. And, if Michael Thomas stays healthy, then
we've been saying that since 2018 now. So
yeah. Well, all right, plug AT into the starting lineup. Fuck it.
Do it.
So, move on to Jimbo's 4th round pick there, the 408 with Deuce Vaughn. It kind of is what it is. I don't know if Zeke's back in Dallas yet.
Not
We're
yet.
still talking about it. So
Sean Tucker next. Everybody's the Cinderella story out of Syracuse. Heard him a medical issue. My guy was hoping that he would fall a little bit, but there was no way that Wolf was gonna let him. Too many animals here. No way that Wolf was gonna let him fall to me after we talked about it earlier in the year. Immediately after the draft, he offered me Sean Tucker in his first for blank and was asking me who I would like to move. And I don't think picking up a first round pick next year and losing, like I said earlier, losing another piece of a already asset barren team for a first round pick is not really what I needed to do. But yeah, I like this pick. It's a late round pick. It's fine. He's got an opportunity to play that 1B in Tampa, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you still got JT and JK holding down that room for now.
Right.
It's not
right.
So next, Aiden O'Connell to Jimbo. Okay.
Yep.
And then Tyler Scott, which is interesting. he would have been on my radar if he went undrafted because I feel like he could be a Darnell Mooney replacement. The interesting thing about Hockenson getting traded from the Lions and then them going with Laporta is, yeah, they got a couple more later round draft picks themselves, the Lions did, but they also have a guy who they now have a starting tight end on a rookie contract still. And I could kind of see that situation playing out in Chicago, where
Yep.
DJ Moore's that clear wide receiver one there. Who knows what kind of money Darnell Mooney's going to command, but I feel like, again, kind of the same thing with like Michael Wilson kind of being similar in profile to DeAndre Hopkins. I kind of think the same way about Tyler Scott and Darnell Mooney. So that's kind of the thing. That's the bulk of my kind of opinion there. He's another fast guy who's smaller, and there's that. I think I've brought it up already on an episode, even though this is only episode 3. But you see that graphic that the last time a team had a 4,000-yard passer, my Browns last time was like 86 with Brian Sipe. Everyone else is in the 2000s, except for the Bears, who've never had a 4,000-yard passer. That's got to change at some point, I would think, with Justin Fields and an extra game in the regular season. Yeah. So, if it does, maybe whoever's taking over the wide receiver 2 spot in the near future for the Bears can be fantasy viable. So, at the 411, that's your one of your deep dives, and I think that's a good deep dive.
Sure.
In my opinion. So
absolutely, I like that comp. I hadn't thought about it before, but I do like that a lot. So yeah.
And then Tunes says top 2 steals. I'll take it. Yeah, Tunes. For some reason, Papa Tunes really impresses the RSJ staff with his drafting. So we'll see. Particularly his late rounders. So we'll see if these ones end up actually panning out with McBride and Nacua.
Uh-huh.
Last but not least, we got Mr. Irrelevant. You want to take it away there, El Padrino?
Mr. Irrelevant is just that, fairly irrelevant, especially on a roster like mine with a lot of top-heavy guys just needing more depth. A pass-catching back in Seattle will be great because I don't know how long Geno's going to be there. Don't know how long Lockett's going to play. We've talked about this at length about Pete Carroll wanting backs in the backfield, and if he's got a guy that can catch passes out of there, that's pretty valuable, especially in fantasy football. It's too bad that we don't do full PPR because I would have liked this pick a little bit more. But no, I don't mind it. A throwaway pick in a trade just to get me more picks is totally fine with me.
Yeah, you can't really. What are you looking to get there at a Mr. Irrelevant kind of pick? So that's a good of a justification as you can look for, I think. So, there you go. There's some rookie drafts are 5 rounds. Ours was 4, which I'm fine with. I don't really want to have to think about a 5th round.
I don't want to keep cutting people.
Yeah. So. There you go. If you hung with us for part or even all of it and you got something to say, you can tweet at us at RSJ Dynasty Dive. If you got any crazy draft stories, any crazy 101 Bijan Robinson move kind of stories, we're here for it. So you take a look at our board here, something that stands out to you the most. You want to talk some trash, here for it too. And before we get out of here, I do want to say that there is a changing of the guard underway as far as one of the rankings in Roto Street Journal, the RSJ Dynasty rankings. Well, it's not official, but Emery and I are looking to take over for the Wolf as far as the Dynasty rankings are concerned. And as long as it works out, there will be 2 sets of rankings, me and Emery having our own. That way we don't have to fight over a consensus. And if anything, we can fight over what the biggest differences are in our rankings once they get materialized here.
Absolutely. That's a great little segue into next week, hopefully, maybe the next 2 weeks or so. I appreciate y'all hanging in with us. And, tweet us at RSJ Dynasty Dive. We tweeted out the big board, the results. That's up. Yeah, so let us know what you think. Biggest faller, biggest surprise, the most outlandish, the worst pick. Yeah, let us know.
With that, I guess we'll get out of here. Let's cue the music.
Adios.